WBCB presents Pro Wrestling Weekly.
Enough is enough, and it's time for a change!
I can't believe I'm putting my voice to this.
Call in with a question or comment at 215-949-3232 or 888-922-2149.
Thank you for your irrelevant opinion.
And now, here's your host of Pro Wrestling Weekly, Fearon Derry.
The first thing you need to do is to tell these people to shut up if you want to hear what I gotta say. I'm a broadcast journalist. I have a right to my opinion.
Oh, son of a...
I am the best on this microphone, in that ring, even in commentary.
There's the sound of the bell, and we are set to go. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Fearon Derry here with you, alongside Serena, observing. She keeps coming back, and I don't know. I hope she's learning something, because I don't know exactly what I'm teaching, but I guess I must be doing something right if she keeps coming back. But that's, I don't know, that's for her to know, and I guess for me to find out. I don't know. Anyway, a lot to get into. An abbreviated program today as we have high school football playoff action. New Hope Soulbury against West Catholic High School. It's the first round of the AA state playoffs. And speaking of various tournaments, of course, the title tournament concluded this past Sunday at Survivor Series. And I'll go over a little bit of some things having to do with that. Of course, the new champion, the winner of the tournament, Roman Reigns, who went through Alberto Del Rio in the semifinals and Dean Ambrose in the finals, but didn't quite exactly end there, as following the confetti celebration, Triple H came out to congratulate Reigns and was met with a spear for his troubles. And next thing you know, he turns around and runs into a brogue kick from Sheamus, and thanks to a cashing in of Sheamus's Money in the Bank briefcase, and 35 seconds later, Sheamus is your new WWE World Heavyweight Champion, despite having been eliminated in the first round of the tournament and having competed earlier in the night in a traditional Survivor Series match, being on the losing end along with New Day and King Barrett, losing to the Usos, the Lucha Dragons, and Ryback. One of the various matches along there. The other matches, as I mentioned, Dean Ambrose beating Kevin Owens. The pre-show match was another Survivor Series style clash, as you had the Dudley Boys, Titus O'Neil, Goldust, and Neville beating the team of The Miz, Bo Dallas, Stardust, and The Ascension. Also, Charlotte retaining the Divas Championship, beating Paige. Tyler Breeze pinning Dolph Ziggler. You saw The Undertaker and Kane defeat Bray Wyatt and Luke Harper, keeping Braun Strowman off to the side, even though he was in their corner. And as mentioned, Roman Reigns winning the title tournament, only to lose to Money in the Bank winner Sheamus, cashing in his briefcase. And a rare occurrence that I didn't... I was going to say, I don't usually expect to have happen, but every once in a while these things do. As far as my predictions starting to go wrong, well, yes, that's right. For the third time since I've been doing the picks for, gosh, probably about 6.5 years now, perfect on the picks, 6 for 6. Lucas, meanwhile, went 4-2. So for the year lead overall, it has switched. I'm now one match ahead of him, I should say, as far as the picks go. But for only the third time in the 6.5 years, that shows you, people say, oh, wrestling's predictable. It's not as predictable as you think. If it was, I'd be able to do this more often than an average of once every 2 years or so. Plus, it gives me a chance to roll out the Mr. Perfect theme, which, nothing wrong with that, to say the least. Just a little bit of fun and gloating there and whatnot. A bunch of news and whatnot to get into, including, well, let me get this right off the bat, a Survivor Series scare. That's right, fans who had attended this past Sunday's Survivor Series at the Phillips Arena in Atlanta, well, they were worried about striving to survive themselves, as just after Pro Wrestling Weekly ended last Saturday, a story broke regarding claims that the arena was among the worldwide targets for the ISIS terrorist attacks, according to the international activist group Anonymous. Everything went off without a hitch, though security was beefed up for the event. The FBI had issued in a statement, quote, "The FBI is aware of reports of an alleged threat that includes an Atlanta, Georgia venue and event. While we take all threats seriously, we do not have specific or credible information of an attack at this time. We have, however, made the proper notifications as we continue to work closely with our law enforcement and private sector partners to keep our community safe. And they certainly did, as there were no concerns and really not much changed about the pay-per-view apart from Lillian Garcia singing something patriotic in the very beginning, as Vince is one to do when it comes to various anti-American threats. We'll leave it at that. Also on the docket over the course of the next 35 minutes or so, John Cena discussing his absence from WWE. We'll get into that. Also, you remember that deranged fan who tried to break into the WWE Performance Center? Well, there's some video footage of his attempt, and it's pretty funny as well as sad, to say the least. Also, an NXT talent departure. We'll get into that. As reported last week, Cesaro does, in fact, undergo surgery following the injury that I had mentioned last week. I'll give you more about that. The alarming Raw ratings. Is it time to push the panic button yet? I'll tell you more about that. Plus, Mick Foley speaking out again and is, quote, getting close to being a former WWE fan. That almost coincides right along with the alarming Raw ratings, which I'll tell you about that. Also, the medicinal legal fight continues. I'll tell you more about that entertaining story. Also, another future endeavoring from WWE and TNA calling off the India tour. All that set here as we take you to 12:45 for high school playoff football action. Plus, we've got room for your calls at 215-949-3232 or toll free at 888-922-2149. Also, the Facebook fan page, that's always hopping with all kinds of various entertaining things, which that one I'll read a little bit later since it coincides with one of the stories. Thank you, though, John from Northeast Philly for chiming in on that. Bob giving a review of something on Raw, which makes a lot of sense, and I think a lot of people were asking this. A rematch from the night before occurred on Monday on Raw. The Divas title was on the line, and Charlotte fought Paige to a double countout, and after the match was over, Paige, well, she threw Charlotte onto the broadcast table and applied the PTO from there, and I think Bob asking the question that a lot of us are wondering, how is putting someone in a submission hold on top of the announcer table worse than in the ring? It's an interesting question. I mean, I could understand, just to use an example, when Bret Hart would use the figure four leg lock around the ring post. And obviously with the metal, with the steel post being in there, you obviously have, a leverage thing as well. Plus, because it's around the pole and you're pretty much hanging down toward the ground, you have added leverage. So in that regard, I could see that as more painful, being more painful. But as far as being on top of the announcer table versus in the ring, Bob, you're right. It doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense, but some would argue that not a whole lot makes a whole heck of a lot of sense here in WWE at the moment, or in wrestling in general. But that's a whole nother story. As there's the TNA World Title Series going on, and there's network changes, Impact's moving, ROH is moving. There's a lot of different things going on. Now, Evan chiming in on Thanksgiving this past Thursday. Can someone explain to me how the ratings are bad and NXT is not making money but is still the best product? I think some parts of the main roster shows are good, but they need to step up their games. I'll give you 3 words. Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Everything stops and ends with him when it comes to the WWE roster, and he pretty much leaves NXT alone, and you can kind of see what's the more entertaining product and what is kind of treading water, or maybe kind of being pulled under a little bit. Maybe it's kind of like Jack from Titanic at this. Okay, maybe it's not that bad. All right, that might be a little bit extreme, but not very much. In fact, I'll get into this right now. The coming off of the Survivor Series pay-per-view and the tournament to determine a new WWE World Heavyweight Champion, which you'd think would be a big to-do, which it is. Not that you'd think it would, but this past Monday's edition of Raw averaged just under 3 million viewers with a 2.16 TV rating. Now, by comparison, even 2 short years ago, Raw averaged 4.14 million viewers, so a little over 1 million more. and a 2.93 rating, which is a significant increase than 2.16. Now, the last time the Raw ratings were this low, apart from an episode of Raw on Christmas Eve 2012, you'd have to go all the way back to September of 1997 before the height of the Attitude Era. That's how long it's been. It's a crazy to-do, to say the least. So, yeah, I guess a lot of the questions are what can be done to right this ship, especially since a lot of the go-to guys who you had established as your stars are out for various reasons. Cena is filming that reality TV series for Fox. He's going to be out for the next month. Randy Orton, he's out with the with an injury. He's going to be out for the next 4 to 6 months. Seth Rollins, he tore all those ligaments in his knee. He's going to be out for the next 6 to 9 months. And I was going to say I'm drawing a blank on it. Oh yeah, well, not that he has been put on the level of those three that I mentioned, but Cesaro, he's now going to be out. We'll tell you a little bit more about that coming up on the other side. We'll get to the phone calls as well. In fact, we'll get we'll get to Joe from Hamilton Square right on the other side. He wants to talk a little bit about that reality show. I can only imagine where we're going to be going with that. Well, who the heck knows? Who knows where a lot of these things are going sometimes. We'll get all that squared away. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.
And now, more Pro Wrestling Weekly with your host, Fearon Derry.
Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Fearon Derry here with you, hosting solo, kind of doing the Bert from Mary Poppins deal, the one-man band type thing. Or I guess, well, that would be more Heath Slater, wouldn't it? Either one could work. You can go a few different directions. We're going to go as far as this direction. Let's go to the phones. And Joe from Hamilton Square has been hanging on. Joe, welcome to Pro Wrestling Weekly.
Hey, Fearon, how's it going, brother?
Hanging in there. Still trying to work off that turkey from a couple days ago.
Me too, man. Me too. By the way, great job on the air over the weekend, or over the holiday there.
Thank you. I'm glad you were listening in for a little bit. Sorry I couldn't do more to entertain following the football results there, of the professional variety.
That was definitely a disappointment, but we won't talk about it.
Yeah, no.
Another show at another time.
A few of them, in fact.
Just a little observation. I didn't have any problem with the Survivor Series at all. The only thing was, it left me with it was like an odd feeling, almost like it could have been booked a different way, but I didn't also have a problem with how it was booked at the same time, if you kind of catch what I mean.
No, I totally do.
I'm glad, personally, I have no problem with Sheamus cashing in on Money in the Bank, because, I guess it's a bias, because I like the guy. I think he's good. I think his matches and promos are entertaining. My thing is, the Roman Reigns-Dean Ambrose match went really quick, which I was surprised about. I figured it would drag on a little bit, and the finish came out of nowhere. I don't really think we needed Triple H to come out. I was giving that a little bit of leeway, but that's starting to get annoying that he comes out every now and again and does a little promos here and there. I would rather him kind of stay off. Even though he's not on all the time, it just seems like he still has to have a presence, and I just think it gets in the way a little bit of what needs to be done out there on TV.
Well, I think a lot of that, first of all, I'm looking at the time here. Yeah, the match was just over 9 minutes for a World Heavyweight title match. It's usually something that you don't see run that short of a period of time. Although, given that they both had wrestled matches well over 10 minutes earlier in the night, I guess there's a little bit of credibility that can be established to that. Both of them are more fatigued, so you could, in theory, see that they had reason to have a shorter match. Although it seemed so short and ended so early that you knew that there was some sort of chicanery, tomfoolery, hijinks, or otherwise that was going to occur because there was probably about 10 minutes left on the pay-per-view.
Well, I actually had no problem. A lot of people were disappointed. I kind of read the message boards and stuff, and a lot of people were kind of annoyed that Dean Ambrose didn't turn. I'm glad that didn't happen. I don't want any turns like that because I kind of like the Arn Anderson, Ric Flair vibe the two of them have. I'd rather it stay that way.
Yeah, plus you run the risk of somebody growing stale because you've seen them go from good to bad and bad to good and then back to bad and then back to good again too many times. I mean, how many complaints have we seen about that with the Big Show over his career? And you're starting to see it already in an abbreviated period of time with Paige.
Yeah, I've actually noticed that there seems to be a trend. Well, see, the thing with that is they don't seem to know where they want to go with that. I mean, though, in the last couple of weeks, it seems like there's a little bit of focus with Charlotte versus Paige. I don't understand what the deal was with the double disqualification or whatever that was on Raw.
The double count out, yeah.
Yeah, the double count out. I mean, I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. Maybe Charlotte's probably going to keep the title for a long time, probably just because she's a Flair. But I don't know. I think it seems like they want to have some focus. They got rid of all of the garbage that's been on there the last few weeks before that. But where are they going to go with that? I mean, how many times can you see Paige versus Charlotte, though, or Paige versus Becky Lynch week after week? That's going to be a problem, probably.
Well, that's an overexposure issue that has occurred just with having to write 3 hours of TV every week, and you tend to see that there's a lot of filler in there. I mean, you look at some of the matches. I mean, there are some that, some kind of make you scratch your head. I'm looking here at Neville against Mark Henry that lasted just under 2.5 minutes, and you would think that Neville scoring a win over a former world heavyweight champion like Mark Henry would be a big deal, but it was just kind of ho-hum, move on to the next segment.
Yeah, they did kind of push that under a little bit.
It was just glossed over. Mm-hmm.
Because I'm thinking for the Wyatts, where do they go? Because it seems like what happens is Bray Wyatt picks a fight, he talks about his opponents for a few weeks, does his thing, they have a blow-off match that doesn't mean anything, and it's sometimes usually not that good. Then he starts off with another feud. Now, this thing with The Undertaker seemed like, to me, I got into it for a while because it looked like it was going to be something great. But the match wasn't that long again, another short match, which I was a little disappointed with. And it seems like now, where do they go with the Wyatts? I mean, who's he going to start with? I mean, he's pretty much going through everybody as far as main eventers and stuff. I mean, unless he goes around the horn again, obviously there's no title in the future anywhere for any of the Wyatts for a long time. So where do they go with these guys?
I don't know. I mean, the problem that you have with a lot of these feuds that Bray Wyatt has gotten into is he's kind of like, I'm going to reference an old James Brown song from 1972. He's talking loud and saying nothing. You know, he talks a lot of game when it comes to these, but at what point has he backed it up? At what feud or long battle has he ultimately won? You can't really think of any. Usually he ends up on the short side, whether it was with John Cena, whether it was with Daniel Bryan, whether it was with here with The Undertaker and Kane. I mean, just to name a few.
Well, possibly. The only thing I can think of now is he's not so much the rest of the Wyatts, but as far as Bray Wyatt goes, he may be like the special gimmick attraction. But the way things are going with some of the feuds and some of the matches he's had, I mean, how special can it be? Because for me, I thought the Wyatts were getting built up again as like a top team, and they were being real serious about getting these guys serious again because they were getting stale. But now it seems to me, after watching Raw this past Monday, that it's going back to where it was. Stale Wyatts, they're going to have the same stale promos, and I think they're going to be pretty much stuck where they're at, man, for a little while, to tell you the truth.
I was going to say, I'm kind of hard-pressed to disagree, just given I mentioned earlier that 2.16 rating. I mean, it hasn't been that low since before the Montreal Screwjob. Let that sink in for just a second. That's how, and it doesn't look like there's an uptrend like there was in '97.
Well, hopefully things will get better. But anyway, that was my 2 cents. That's all I got for today. But
no, I appreciate it. Yeah, always good to talk to you, Joe. Thank you so much for the call. Certainly a lot of different points to get into there. In case you missed it at the top of the hour, we're going to be off early at 12:45, but still a lot to get into in a very short period of time. Some other news, notes, tidbits, and otherwise to get into. Well, we had mentioned that John Cena, one of the reasons that they've kind of had to look elsewhere in WWE. Well, he discussed with reporters his absence from WWE and how it affects the rest of the roster. Talking about that new reality show and being off of WWE TV, he said, quote, "I've been a cornerstone of WWE programming since 2002. That's a long time, more than 10 years. So much so that a portion of our audience has direct complacency with me. Man, Cena holds everybody down. He doesn't give the new guys a chance. From a company perspective, as you know, I hold it very near and dear to my heart. The dance floor is open, boys. I'm gone. Let's see who steps up." And I like that. As much as I want to try and distance myself, or as much as someone who views me would try to distance myself from WWE, I'm never going to let go. Another Titanic reference. I'll never let go, WWE. I'll never let go. Do 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 do. Okay, that's yeah. Serena rolling her eyes. That pretty much says it all, doesn't it? Oh goodness. Next story before I have to do any more silly singing or anything like that. Remember that deranged fan who tried to get into the WWE Performance Center? Well, WESH TV in Orlando, Florida, ran footage of the incident. In case you've forgotten, Armando Montalvo, the fan who was shot by police in August outside the WWE Performance Center, well, the footage is interesting, to say the least. It shows him howling and pounding on the glass of the building and asking to be trained, and also posing Shawn Michaels style, doing the whole leg lunge flex type thing. Now I know how not to try to train at the Monster Factory. Ooh. Montalvo faces charges that include aggravated assault, resisting an officer with violence, and trespassing. He has been bonded out of jail and is scheduled for a pretrial hearing coming up in February. Now, a couple of various departures. One I guess was a release, and another was a future endeavoring. First of all, Solomon Crowe, his real name Sam Johnston, was released by WWE or NXT, according to PWInsider.com's Mike Johnson. The Solomon Crowe character debuted in NXT in August 2013. Prior to NXT, Crowe was very popular on the independent scene as Sami Callihan, and I know from having seen him firsthand, he certainly wowed the crowds, and maybe we'll get to see a little bit more of him back in that Sami Callihan role now that he has left NXT. Now, on another front, a future endeavoring, WWE announcing on Wednesday that they came to terms on the release of WWE superstar Brad Maddox. The website, of course, wished him the best in his future endeavors, as they tend to do. Now, Maddox hasn't been on WWE TV much as of late and was most recently seen as the individual in the turkey suit who was tombstone pile-driven by The Undertaker on The Tonight Show, leading up to Survivor Series. Now, there's been speculation that the cause of the release happened one day earlier at the SmackDown tapings in Indianapolis, where Maddox may have been a bit liberal in his language toward the Indianapolis fans prior to a dark match against R-Truth. But again, no confirmation of that, just speculation, rumor. Rumors and wrestling go together like peanut butter and jelly, as we all know. Now, I talked about it last week on the show here, courtesy of Jim Ross's statement, and it has been confirmed by Cesaro and WWE that he will indeed be having shoulder surgery. Now, Cesaro was interviewed by WWE.com, and he said that he would have surgery this week, which he did on Tuesday, and mentioned a loose 4 to 6 month recovery period. Cesaro had been working through the shoulder injury for over 2 months and eventually had an MRI done and found out that he completely tore one tendon in his shoulder and partially tore another one. I had him on the show once before. Maybe he can give me some tips on how to rehab my shoulder, since that's been going on for a little over 6 months now. Although that was way back in the Claudio Castagnoli days, to kind of give you an idea. And we're going to take care of our second time out here, and we'll come back and got some more to get into, including Mick Foley getting close to being a former WWE fan. Yeah, that's right. Also, a little bit more Facebook feedback we'll get into, and the medicinal legal fight continuing. Yeah, get your Z-Packs ready for this one. Plus TNA calling off the India Tour and more. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at George's Cards and Collectibles. It's your place for sports and wrestling memorabilia, as well as legendary sports figure appearances. Not too early to start thinking about holiday shopping, and you can get your sports collectibles at any of George's 3 locations, including their original store at 7755 New Falls Road in Fairless Hills, as well as the lower level of the Oxford Valley Mall next to the Sears Court, and in the Neshaminy Mall in the AMC Theater Wing. Plus, for the holiday season, there's a 4th store open in the Willow Grove Park Mall on the 3rd level between Sears and the food court. And something tells me there might be something cooking as far as an appearance coming up in the next couple weeks. I've heard some rumblings, but nothing official as of yet. But once that's announced, I will most certainly bring it to you here on Pro Wrestling Weekly. But for more information otherwise on upcoming signings, collectibles, and more, you can give George's a call at 215-943-2475 or go to georgescollectibles.com. Coming back with a whole bunch more and room for you as well at 215-949-3232 or toll free at 888-922-2149. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Pro Wrestling Weekly presents Today in Wrestling History, November 28. On this date in 1985, the NWA held its Starrcade closed-circuit Supercard simulcast from Greensboro, North Carolina and Atlanta, Georgia. In the main event, Dusty Rhodes defeated Ric Flair to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. On this date in 2005, WWE Monday Night Raw aired live from Cleveland, Ohio. In the main event, John Cena defeated Chris Masters and Kurt Angle in a three-way no disqualification submission match. On this date in 2011, WWE Monday Night Raw aired live from Columbia, South Carolina. In the main event, CM Punk pinned Alberto Del Rio to retain the WWE Championship. This has been Today in Wrestling History, November 28. Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Fearon Derry here with you, flying solo today, although Serena's in the house. She's observing me make an ass clown of myself, as I tend to do on a weekly basis. Those of you who have been listening for quite a while. Yes, it's okay. I can say that. The censors haven't gotten me as of yet. Although if Ted Efaw comes running into the studio, no, you can't say that. Well, then this might be my last show. Who knows? All right, some other news and notes and tidbits to get into. So Mick Foley, WWE Hall of Famer Mick Foley, he took to Facebook to address his concern with the WWE product. Not the first time that he's done this, of course. He wrote, quote, "I am one of those people on the verge of becoming a former WWE fan. I'm tired of being told through Raw, SmackDown, and pay-per-views that WWE superstars I have rooted for, from Ziggler to Cesaro to Kevin Owens, aren't really top stars no matter how strongly crowd reaction seems to disagree. I'm tired of NXT stars getting their big break in WWE just to be treated like jokes." He also referenced driving with his son to Orlando to see Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch wrestle at NXT TakeOver, and compared it to their first singles match on Raw, which had the two only having a 4-minute match, to which Foley then turned the channel to football and kept it there. I don't know what's going to happen once January hits and there's no Monday Night Football, but I'm sure he'll come up with something else to watch if things continue to trend in that direction. Also, I've been jokingly teasing about it over the course of the hour. The medicinal legal fight continuing. That's right, the ongoing legal battle between CM Punk, Colt Cabana, and WWE Dr. Chris Amon will extend into 2016, according to updated court records in Chicago. For those who missed it, Amon has filed a lawsuit against Punk and Cabana for libel and slander based on their comments in Cabana's podcast from Thanksgiving of last year, which, if nothing else, has led to an increased awareness of Z-Packs. The next court date is scheduled for February 1st. Yeah, there's nothing that's good that has come out of that, and it seems like we've heard less and less of CM Punk as he's been training for a UFC fight that, I don't know, may or may not happen. It seems like it keeps getting pushed back. It's hard to say. Anyway, also TNA calling off the India tour. That's right, TNA informing their talent that the scheduled tour of India has been indefinitely postponed. The crew was supposed to fly out tomorrow, but they were informed of the change on Wednesday via email. Later Wednesday, TNA issued this statement, quote, "Multi-Screen Media and TNA Wrestling, the International Professional Wrestling Entertainment Organization, jointly announced that the TNA one-night-only Mumbai live event has been postponed. The live event that was scheduled to take place on December 4th has now been postponed to 2016 to a yet-to-be-decided date. The postponement is primarily due to logistical issues around the timing of the event. As soon as the new dates are firmed up, it will be announced in an update. While TNA is looking forward to coming to India soon, MSM is geared up to host the entire entourage of TNA in India." So the only drawback to that is because of the short notice, I'm sure that a lot of the talent could have gotten paydays on the independent circuit this weekend that now they can't because it's too short a notice. Although I'm sure if they called up an I don't know. That's one part of the business that I'm not as privy to. We'll leave it at that. Also, before we make our way out of here, of course, I got to tell you about my favorite beer spot, the Broken Goblet Brewery, 1500 Grundy's Lane in Bristol. Broken Goblet Brewing, breaking your perspective on how you experience craft beer, because broken can be beautiful. In fact, I was there last night for their Black Friday celebration and got to check out, oh man, for those who missed it, the Zombie Turkey Paintball. That was a lot of fun. There's certainly a lot of laughs to be had there. Unless you were one of the owners, Mike especially, who got pelted in quite a few different places by said paintballs at fairly close range. But the fun doesn't seem to stop there, to say the least, as a new addition to the Broken Goblet is their Hop Tails. I told you about that a couple of weeks ago. A drink comprising one of the goblet brews along with other ingredients to make a unique concoction. Currently featured in honor of the new Star Wars movie coming out is the Goblet's Dagobah Swamp Juice, a mix of their Steinbeiser's Buried Treasure Cream Ale, a coffee honey mead from the Colony Meadery, a couple of secrets they won't let me in on, plus the rim is coated with Dagobah dust for a unique tasting experience. Enjoy it, you will. That's right. Open Wednesdays through Sundays. It's always a good time at the Broken Goblet Brewery. Just ask Yoda. 1500 Grundy's Lane in Bristol, PA. Check them out on the web at brokengoblet.com. That's Broken Goblet Brewing, the semi-official brewery of Pro Wrestling Weekly. Got a few minutes here. I was going to say, is it a little early to get to the birthdays? I don't know. Yeah, a little early? Yeah. I don't know. Well, since Ted Efaw is here in the studio, I mean, this is my chance to bring in and have a little chat and whatnot. Pick a mic, any mic, as they both seem to be.
Show them how little I know about wrestling, right? Wrestling.
It's probably right about with what I know.
That's not true.
That is not true. No, you're absolutely right. Wow, where do I don't know. Where the heck do I go with all that? Okay, here we go. Well, since I brought up the ratings and whatnot, now I know that your knowledge of wrestling is minimal, but I mean, you know a little bit about ratings, right. And when they're on the downslide, what the heck do you do to turn them around?
Well, obviously you have to reassess what you're doing, right? So, I mean, I don't know what is the reason for the downturn yet. I mean, do you have a
well, I mean, I was going to say if WWE knew, they'd probably be able to fix it, but the fact that the ratings have been kind of slowly declining over the years, I think a little bit of it is the staleness of the product, just so much exposure. Yeah, one of the things that I've been harping on for a while that they won't do but probably should is contracting Raw from their Monday night show from 3 hours a week to less, to, okay, maybe one might be too much of a constriction, but at least going back to 2 hours. It was maybe about two plus years ago that they went to 3 hours every Monday night, and it's just been... it's the personification of too much of a good thing.
Well, I was going to say, obviously, they'll never do away with this because they're making money, but how much do you think the online product has hurt them?
As far as...
I mean, don't you subscribe to, wasn't there...
well, the WWE Network. There's a little bit of that, although the first-run episodes of Raw and SmackDown aren't shown on the network because of their TV contracts with USA Network and, well, up until the end of this year, Sci-Fi Network as well, but then... SmackDown, their Thursday night show, is getting moved to USA as well. Okay. So they'll have everything kind of monopolized there. But dealing with NBC Universal, they kind of they can't immediately put it up on the network and avoid whatever contractual obligations they have. So that's one thing that they won't be able to do. Plus, I don't think they'll be able to monetize those programs as well on the network as they do with the TV contracts.
Okay. Because, I mean, again, I go back, I can remember in the 80s, it was a big deal when you went and did the pay-per-view. And there wasn't as many. So it was...
that, I think, is
that's
one of the things...
One of the things I think is probably hurting them now. There's too many of them.
But on the same, they're making money on it. It's kind of one of those that they opened Pandora's box and they can't shove everything back into it, because this is something that has gone on really for the last 20 years. It was 95, I think, when WCW, the competition, started doing more than just a pay-per-view every couple of months and started going to a once-a-month pay-per-view format. So WWE followed suit. They had the in-your-house pay-per-views, and next thing you know, much to the dismay of my parents' wallets at the time, that you're going through 24 pay-per-views a year between the two companies, and then ECW got involved in '97. They started throwing pay-per-views in the mix, and it just, I think it reached its peak as far as too many pay-per-views for WWE, at least in, I want to say it was 2006, where they had 16 pay-per-views in a 12-month span.
Wow.
And I think that was where people cried enough, and they've slowly whittled back to the one a month or 12 a year.
Never cheap. I mean, no matter what, depending on
what
era.
In my childhood, it was, I think, $29.99 per pay-per-view, and now it is
cheap now.
It does sound cheap now, but now when you're looking at 50 some odd bucks a pay-per-view, or I guess 60 if you get the HD route.
Right.
So,
but also it used to be on once a week, and it was isolated. You didn't have, as you said, as the regular shows that you would see each week, and they weren't as long. And that, I think, plays a part too. Right? Like you had pointed out earlier, the 3-hour broadcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's not going to change just because of the monetization of it, if that's the right word. But what can you do?
Well,
all
reality
right.
shows too. I know you got to.
Yeah, I know we got. Yeah, we're coming up on time.
But that also is a situation that probably doesn't help either.
Well, I mean, they have Total Divas on the E Network, or something. Or at least they did. I don't know. That's another story for another show. Got a couple minutes left, so of course it's time for
birthdays.
That's right. Got 5 of them here for you. I thought it was 4. That's all right. I forgot to put 5 on here. That's what I get for doing notes in the middle of the night and not sleeping or thinking about it. So on this date in 1972, Robert Thomas Conway was born. The former 3-time WWE Tag Team Champion and 2-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion, known as Rob Conway, turns 43 today. That's right, just look at him. On this date in 1978, Brent Albright was born. The former Friday Night SmackDown competitor known in 2006 as Gunner Scott turns 37 today. How about that? On this date in 1981, Joseph Roode was born.
Who?
Yeah, who's that? The former NXT Tag Team Champion and current WWE superstar known as Eric Rowan of the Wyatt family turns 34 today.
That's all considered old now, right?
I know. Careful now, I'm 34.
You're old. I'm ancient.
I was going to say, you're not the first person. You know what? I was going to say, if Lucas were here, he'd punch me right about now. On this date in 1983, Daniel Moynier was born. The former Lingerie Football League cornerback and current WWE diva and valet known as Summer Rae turns 32 today.
Woohoo.
Yes, she played for the Chicago Bliss in the LFL from 2008 to 2011.
A blissful sight.
And I think people are already clicking on their computers or tapping at their smartphones to look at said blissful sight, but that's a whole nother story. And finally, this is I love getting a celebrity stretch in. On this date in 1962, Jonathan Leibowitz was born.
Who?
The comedian, writer, producer, actor, and former SummerSlam host from this past year, known as Jon Stewart of The Daily Show fame, turns 53 today.
Wow.
Who, yes, we last saw him on WWE television on the pay-per-view getting a John Cena attitude adjustment. Yes, getting thrown on his back at 52, now 53 years old. Hopefully he's recovered from that after a few months from now. But I think he's doing stuff for HBO now, so I don't think he's got anything to worry about, especially financially with all the stuff he did with The Daily Show and everything else. Anyway, 12, oh, wow, we're it's time for me to get the heck on out of here, so that means we got to go to... Of course, Nutsy, play us on out. Let's get to some football here.
1 o'clock and all's well.
Serving you better than ever before. This is 1490 WBCB Levittown, Fearless.